Welcome back to Unveiling the Covenants. We are looking at the story of salvation history. We are now at about Genesis chapter 43. And so we're looking at the person of Joseph. And just to quickly recap, Joseph was sold into slavery by his brothers, his 10 older brothers. And through God's providence, he winds up going from service in the captain of the God's household to a dungeon, and now he's been elevated by God to become the second most powerful person in all of Egypt, second only to Pharaoh and the throne. Considering this, a famine has hit the land of Egypt and all the surrounding areas. And the surrounding areas, by the way, are what we call the land of Canaan, all the smaller kingdoms that occupied the Canaan land, because they are quite literally descended of Ham's son Canaan. Now, going back to the historical narrative, Joseph is now prime minister. He is given a title, Zaphanath Paneah. In Egyptian, it means God speaks, he lives. And he is in charge of selling grain to all those who need grain. And so this is actually an event in socio-political history where Egypt's wealth increases because people from the surrounding areas also come to buy grain, lest they starve and die. Now, Genesis 43:11, we are beginning with what Israel says to them. If it must be so, then do this. Take some of the choice fruits of the land in your bags, carry down the gum, myrrh, pistachio nuts, almonds, take double the money with you, carry back with you the money that was returned in the mouth of the sack. Perhaps it was an oversight, but take also your brother. He agrees now, take Benjamin. And arise, go again to the man. May God Almighty grant you mercy before the man, that he may send back your other brother, Simeon, and Benjamin. If I am bereaved of my children, I am bereaved. He has accepted his fate at this point. He is aware that he has very little control over the situation. And so the sons take this and they go over to Egypt. Joseph sees them when they arrive in Egypt. They stood before Joseph, and Joseph saw Benjamin with them. And he said to the steward of the house, bring the men into the house, slaughter an animal, and make ready, for the men are to dine with me at noon. Now, this should come across as alarming, that the prime minister sees these random strangers and says, I want to dine with you. I want you to dine in my house. But the man did, as Joseph bade him. And the 12, or at least the 11 brothers, were afraid, because they were brought to Joseph's house and they said, it is because of the money which was replaced in our bags. So they suspect that something is amiss here. And now, look at what they say, that he may seek occasion against us and fall upon us to make what? Slaves of us. To make slaves of us. Look at the ironic twist once again, that what they did to Joseph, now by means of socio-political power, Joseph has the authority to do to them legally. He can actually take them all as slaves in his household, simply by means of the accusation of them having not paid for the grain that they took and having taken their money back, even though he was the one who planted it. They spoke with him at the door of the house and said, O my lord, we came down the first time to buy food. When we came to the lodging place, we opened our sacks, and there was every man's money in the mouth of a sack, our money in full weight, and so we have brought it again with us. We have brought other money down in our hand to buy food. We don't know who put the money in our sacks, because they're appealing here to honesty. And so what does Joseph say? Rest assured, do not be afraid. Your God and the God of your father must have put the treasure in your sacks for you. I received your money. Now, he's appealing to the same God that they worship. There's a kind of appeal here to a common faith. One thing I want to tell you about the history at that time as it pertains to worship, the belief was idols were geographically confined. And so the idols of Egypt were powerful, almost supremely powerful, within Egypt and Egypt only. That the gods of the Canaanites, the gods of Molech and Asenath and all of these other idols, Ashtaroth, I think, all of these other idols that were worshipped, they were confined to geopolitical locations. That the God of Israel is the God of the universe and therefore has jurisdiction over other nations is baffling to Egyptians. Remember this theme, because when we get to the story of Moses, this theme is going to come up. I want to go back to this. He's appealing to a common faith. I received your money. And he brings Simeon out to them, this man who is representative of the crying out from the pit of sin. And God has heard. God has Shema'on. God has heard his cry. And so he brings Simeon out to them, and when the men had brought When the man had brought the men into Joseph's house, he gave them water, washed their feet, and he had given their donkeys food. And they were made ready and present for Joseph's coming. Joseph came, and they brought into the house to him the present which they had brought them, which was really fruit and all of that from the land of Canaan where they were living. And he inquired about their welfare. He asked pointed details about Jacob. But look at this. Is this your youngest brother of whom you spoke to me? God be gracious to you, my son. Now, Joseph is calling Benjamin my son. Don't lose sight of that language. It might be because of age, but that language also connotes kinship and it connotes love and affection. Joseph is showing preferential treatment for Benjamin because he is truly brother to Joseph in a way that the 10 are not. The 10 are half brothers. That's the first thing. The second thing is Joseph by now is aware his mother has died and that his father in his old age only has Benjamin left. And so in the love of his father, the kind of love that Joseph has for his father and that Jacob has for Benjamin is the love Joseph is trying to show for Benjamin. In short, he is showing a kind of fatherly affection to this, his younger brother, whom he's never known. And it's the affection of an older sibling who has an almost parental overview, overwatch, if you will, of a sibling's life, a much younger sibling's life. And so he calls him my son. Joseph made haste because his heart yearned for his brother. And so what did he do? He ran away to weep. And so he enters his chamber, he weeps there, washes himself, controls himself. And then they served him by himself and them by themselves, and the Egyptians who ate with him by themselves, because the Egyptians might not eat bread with the Hebrews, for that is an abomination to the Egyptians. Now that's key. I want you to remember that little detail. It's going to come up in the Exodus narrative. Egyptians didn't eat bread with the Hebrews. This is before the Hebrew people were conscripted as slaves in Egypt. So why are they being separated? It is because of the cult of worship of the Israelites. We don't quite know where this is written down, but we do know this, that the animals that the Egyptians worshipped were used for blood sacrifice and covenant worship of the God of Israel. And so what they sacrificed in blood, the Egyptians worshipped as gods. And so there was a kind of disdain here. It was an abomination to those who believed in the Egyptian religion to also break bread and eat at table with those who sacrificed their idols. That's how seriously they took it. And so the Egyptians who were servants of Joseph in his household ate by themselves, Joseph ate by himself, and the brothers ate by themselves. But Joseph does a weird thing. They sat before him, the firstborn according to his birthright, and the youngest according to his youth. And the men looked at one another in amazement. Now, what is the amazement here? Well, I'm going to finish this verse. Portions were taken to them from Joseph's table. Benjamin's portion was 5 times as much as any of theirs. And so they drank and were merry with him. What's going on here? They were amazed. Why were they amazed? They didn't line themselves up by age. Joseph apportioned their seats to them by their age. And so they're wondering, how on earth does he know our order of birth so accurately? How on earth does he know all of these things? Now, Joseph is trying to prime the pump for an argument he's about to make. Simply put, remember who Joseph is married to? Asenath, the daughter of Potipharah, who is a priest of On. Joseph is now not only nobility by means of political right, but also social right. He is of the priestly class now. The household of Joseph, we don't know if Joseph ever did this. I want to believe that Joseph remained faithful to God. But the household of Joseph, or at least his extended relatives, it was expected that they practiced a kind of Egyptian priestly divination. And so they were given revelation of knowledge in a preternatural way, typically by consulting with spirits and demons. Joseph is trying to demonstrate to his brothers that he has some kind of prophetic or soothsaying capacity, and he's going to use this to his advantage to make sure that he can determine if they have converted themselves or not. So, we're now at chapter 44. He commanded the steward of the house, fill the men's sacks with food, as much as they can carry, put each man's money in the mouth of the sack again, but also put my cup, the silver cup, in the mouth of the sack of the youngest, with his money for the grain. And so they did as Joseph told them. Now you might be wondering what's going on. You probably already can suspect what's going on. And they were sent away with their donkeys. When they had gone a short distance, Joseph said to his steward, "Up, follow the men, for when you overtake them, say to them, 'Why have you returned evil for good? Why have you stolen my silver cup? Is it not that this from which my Lord drinks, and by this that he divines? You have done wrong in doing so.'" The cup, the favorite cup, the precious cup of the head of a household in noble ranks in ancient Egypt, was also used for soothsaying, for telling the future. So the belief was when you poured wine mixed with water or oil into the cup, the swirls communicated something that could tell you something about the present, the past, or the future. And so it was believed, especially those of the priestly class, that they would regularly practice this kind of divination so that this head of the household wasn't just drinking from it at times of feast. He was also always reading fortunes. Did Joseph practice this? I want to believe not. But the servants of the household simply expect that Joseph does this. And so when they catch up with the brothers, this is what they levy against them. How dare you? You've not just stolen a cup that's precious because he likes it, because he favors it. You've stolen a cup with liturgical value. And this is not sacred liturgy like the God of Israel. This is worshipful value, the value of offering sacrifice to idols. And so the crime now is not just monetary. It's not just material. The crime now is an affront against the gods of Egypt, against the priestly class itself and what they do. And so this is a travesty, the kind of thing that can have men either put to death or at the lowest level be completely conscripted as slaves, all of them. And so look at this. When he overtook them, he spoke to them these words, and they said to him, "Why does my Lord speak such words as this? Far be it from your servant that they should do such a thing." So look at the language. "Behold, the money which we found in the mouth of our sacks we brought back to you from the land of Canaan." And then they go on, "With whomever your servants it be found," this is about the cup, "with whomever your servants it be found, let him die, and we also will be my Lord's slaves." What was Joseph sold for? 20 pieces of silver. He was sold for silver into slavery. And now the brothers, that imagery just shows back up. The brothers are being accused of having stolen a silver cup, and they are willing to lay their own lives down for the sake of slavery, for the sake of, in this case, the preservation of their dignity and freedom and name as honest men. But what happens? Well, every man lowered his sack, opened it, and the cup was found where? In Benjamin's sack. And what happens? Look at the language here, 44 verse 13. "Then they tore their clothes, and every man loaded his donkey and returned to the city." Don't gloss by that. When was the last time we saw the tearing of clothes in the book of Genesis? Jacob tore his clothes when he learned of the alleged death of Joseph. Jacob tore his clothes when he learned of the tragic demise of Joseph. And now the brothers, aware of what is happening, repenting of their past sins, tear their clothes in anguish for the harm that is to befall Benjamin. But worse, in befalling Benjamin, they would have shattered their old father's heart and probably brought about his demise. And so the sons are shattered by this. And the rending of one's robes in Near Eastern culture was a sign of bearing my heart in anguish. It was an act of tremendous grief, because it's also a publicly shameful thing to walk around with rended garments, and it was a declaration, I am in tremendous grief and mourning. And all the brothers rend their garments in complete anguish, heartbreak that this has befallen them. And again, this is mirroring Jacob's heartbreak, but also Joseph's heartbreak. But I want you to look forward also into the kind of heartbreak that undoubtedly Joseph and Mary were undergoing at the potential death of Jesus at the hands of Herod. But then Mary eventually truly undergoes the watching of the death of her son. And there was nothing she could do about it. And so this anguish of the past translates into the salvific anguish that we will see in the future with Christ's finished work. But it will find a greater culmination in what Jesus' forefather, Judah, will do. So let's explore that even further. Judah and his brothers came to Joseph's house. Now notice, it's not saying Reuben and the brothers. It's not saying Simeon and the brothers. Not saying Levi and the brothers. Judah and the brothers. By this point, the fourth-born Judah has gained a kind of place of primacy amongst the brothers. He was still there. They fell before him to the ground. And Joseph said to them, "What deed is this that you have done? Do you not know that such a man as I can indeed divine?" Ah, now we understand. Joseph placing all of them by means of by the hierarchy of their age, was a demonstration that he had powers of divination, that he had soothsaying powers, and so he could divine knowledge that he otherwise could not have. And so he says this, "Do you not know that such a man as I can indeed divine?" And Judah said, "What shall we say to my Lord? What shall we speak? How can we clear ourselves? God has found out the guilt of your servants. Behold," what does Judah say? On behalf of everyone, no less. "We are my Lord's slaves." The slavery that was induced upon Joseph is now willingly undertaken. Remember, Judah was one of the foremost voices in pushing Joseph into slavery. And now, the slavery that Judah imposed upon Joseph unwillingly, he speaks on behalf of the other brothers and declares that they are slaves to Joseph. "Both we and he also, in whose hand the cup has been found. But he said, far be it from me that I should do so. Only the man in whose hand the cup was found shall be my slave, but as for you, go up in peace to your father." Now, again, this is part of the test. Watch Judah's redemption. Again, this is a foreshadowing of what Jesus is about to do. We're about to launch into one of the longest speeches in all of the book of Genesis. And it is this heartfelt plea for redemption and what we call penal substitution, that the substitution of the penalty upon Benjamin should be upon Judah. Because remember, as I mentioned in the last episode, Judah swore a covenant oath to Jacob, telling him that if anything happens to Benjamin, my life will be paid for his. I swear this covenant oath that I will be surety, I will be guarantor. I will be the price for Benjamin. That's a life oath. And so what does Judah do? He honors the vow that he made to his father, because when you swear a covenant oath, no matter how minor, it is God who ratifies the oath. And so this is what Judah says. Judah went up to him and said, now the implication here is that he takes Joseph aside. He wants to reason with him. He wants to offer his life in service for Benjamin. "O my Lord, let your servant, I beg you, speak a word in my Lord's ear. Let not your anger burn against your servant, for you are like Pharaoh himself." This is a recognition of what? Joseph's authority. Now, the reason why I read that out is because remember Joseph's second dream. The first dream was about the sheaves of wheat bowing down. We've seen that fulfilled because the brothers did indeed come before Joseph, bow down, and ask for wheat. And so Joseph's wheat was greater, and their lesser wheat bowed down. The second dream was about the sun, the moon, and the stars all bowing down to Joseph. It's when you hear the language of the sun, the moon, and the stars in Scripture, it's a connotation of authority, and in fact, heavenly authority, no less. And so this language of he who has authority bows down to Joseph. Judah has authority over the brothers by means of right of the fourth-born, but the one who has the greatest favor among the eldest. He now bows down and acknowledges, you are like Pharaoh. He now acknowledges that the sun, moon, and stars bow down before you. And so what does he do? We have a father, an old man. He pleads on behalf of the father, and he tells him, unless your younger brother comes, we cannot go down. And so he's fearing for his father's death. And you know that my wife bore me 2 sons. He mentions the story of Joseph to Joseph, ironic as this is. And this speech isn't a communication for the sake of pleading half-heartedly. You really see Judah, who has rended his garments, now rend his heart before Joseph, before the lordship of Joseph. And so he is standing here in the place of redemption for Benjamin, and arguably for all the other brothers as well. Judah steps into the gap. he steps into the fray as one who is willing to bear the burden, the cost, and the load of this crime, which is slavery. But frankly, because it's a divination cup, and like I've mentioned, it's therefore a crime against the sacred according to the Egyptians, Judah could well be put to death. Judah lays his life down for the sake of the salvation of Benjamin and the rest of his brothers, who are in fact Israel. They are the heads of the tribes of Israel. Judah steps forth as a kind of lion figure in defense of Israel. And so Christ, who will be the true Lion of Judah, will mirror what his forefather does. In this case, Judah pours forth his heart into the work of redemption. Jesus will quite frankly rend his flesh and his heart. His heart will be rent by means of a piercing of a spear or a longsword, however you read that. And so what Judah begins, Jesus accomplishes on the cross, and the work of redemptive atonement is done on behalf of the entire Israel and the new Israel, which is the church. And so that's what we're seeing here foreshadowed. Judah then goes on to say, when Jacob, when he sees that the lad is not with us, he will die. And so he's pleading now for the life of his father. But what does he say? And your servants will bring down the gray hairs of your servant, our father, with sorrow to Sheol. Now, again, there's a greater parallel here in the language of typology, that what Judah is doing is essentially going down to the hell of his father to try to redeem his father out, which again mirrors what Jesus did. In laying down Jesus' life, we profess he descended into hell, he descended into Sheol, he descended into the limbo of the fathers. And so this Jacob, whose sons are appealing for him now, will actually hear the voice of Jesus Christ, his eventual descendant of the line of Judah, proclaim the gospel of salvation in the limbo of the fathers and break open those fetters so that those who died in friendship with God could enter into eternal life. And so Judah doesn't even realize there's a lot that's prophetically going on here because God is the author of the scriptures. But what Judah is doing is really foreshadowing what Jesus will accomplish in going down, frankly, to the land of Sheol to redeem the fathers of the past, the limbo of the fathers of the past who died in friendship with God into the joy of eternal life. And so then Judah continues, your servant became surety. I bound myself in covenant for the lad to my father, saying, if I do not bring him back to you, I shall bear the blame in the sight of my father all my life. Now therefore, and he's begging Joseph, because of this covenant oath, I beg you, let your servant remain instead of the lad as a slave to my lord, and let the lad go back with his brothers. For how can I go back to my father if the lad is not with me? I fear to see the evil that would come upon my father. Again, you see the imagery parallel. That in redeeming Benjamin, he sets free Benjamin and all the other brothers to return to their homeland. What the old covenant Judah began, the new covenant Lion of the tribe of Judah, Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Christ, the Anointed One, will accomplish because he will lay his life down as ransom. He has given himself in covenant vow as surety, as guarantor. He has given himself as the price of our redemption. And in doing so, he descends into hell to free all those who died before him in friendship with God. But even more than that, for those who have yet to die, he gives them the freedom to return to the homeland of their Father. This world is not our true homeland. Heaven is our patria. Heaven is our true homeland. What the old covenant Judah did in terms of a material redemption, the new covenant Lion of the tribe of Judah will do in an immaterial, supernatural redemption. And all of this is prefigured because where is all of this taking place? In Egypt, which I've mentioned before is a typological symbol for sin. And so as we're looking at this narrative, yes, we are seeing salvation history historically written out. But know this, you and I are enraptured in this narrative. We are Benjamin. We are those who are guilty. We are the brothers. We have sold Christ into the slavery of our sin. And yet we watch as Christ, the new and eternal Judah, pay the final price, not just for our redemption, but also for those who have gone before us and all those who will come after us. Because of what Judah is doing now, Joseph, in the next chapter, when we start the next chapter, we'll talk about this, will be united to his brothers once again. And so there will be a material redemption of all of Israel because they will dwell in affluence and blessing in the land of Egypt. What Christ will do for us, or did for us, I should say, accomplished the flourishing of all the members of the covenant family of Christ here on earth in a reasonable manner, and eternal flourishing in the eternal homeland, which is the new and eternal heavenly Jerusalem. Until next time, God bless you and keep you. I'm Marcus Peter.